G'day, Dr. Tony here with Realms of Power podcast. Today, I'd like to reflect on the truth. We called this podcast True Aligned Power, Turning Your Tap On. And in Realms of Power, there are so many different spokes on the wheel. So today is all about finding your truth. And in that, it's finding your voice, being able to express your truth. Now, in terms of the spokes on the power wheel, it's going to come under emotional health and it's going to come under relationships. So both of those are very important. And that could be the relationship, again, with yourself and your own emotions and how other people interact with you and affect your emotions. What so often happens is in our upbringing, we are conditioned, we're taught societal norms, family norms. We have to take the guidance of our parents. Sometimes their beliefs get downloaded onto us. We go into the ego of protecting ourselves and just doing the best we can with what we know. What I've noticed over many, many years of working with people in workshops is sometimes those emotional downloads can reflect in their cellular memory, and that leads to triggers and response in their adult life that people are unaware of. So we've talked before about the first thing to break through from there is to reveal, to heal, to reveal those wounds, those conditionings, those triggers, to realize when we are wearing that mask or covering up underlying truth so that we can fit in and get by through a day, whether that's in our work, in our family life, or whatever realm that is. We are often not sort of sharing our real truth because we're covering up the underlying feelings. When those underlying feelings come out, they often will come out as emotions. Huge big ones are shame, guilt, fear, and that fight or flight response, which I'll come back to later in this podcast, when we feel like we've gone off our centeredness, our groundedness, and we've either got really shut down, numbed out, going to that freeze state in the fight or flight response where we can't act or speak. And the other option is some people get all full on and they go for the fight response in the fight or flight. So they yell, they scream, they physically fight, they act out of integrity with who they are, and they might regret what they've done or said in that moment. So finding your truth and finding your center will help you in your life step into your power. When you, rather than react to things, can feel like you are observing and responding appropriately in the moment, that is true mastery. That is resonating at a higher frequency. People often say, well, you've got to vibrate at a higher frequency. You've got to find your resonance. What that actually means is that you're responding and you're standing on your center in the moment. How many times have people, after an interaction with someone, gone, I wish I'd done that different. I wish I'd said that different. And that is pure mastery, is being able to accelerate that and find that in the moment. Now, often our relationships and our families, our relationships at work, are the things that challenge us in that. And those challenges, at the time, you wish that you could get it right. I know I have so many times thought I'm in my ego all centered and powerful and then stuffed it up. And sometimes you've just got to laugh in retrospect and go, okay, I stuffed that up. Let's see if I can do better next time. That's part of life, really, isn't it? So this episode, like I said, is finding your truth, finding your centeredness and finding your groundedness, and then being able to access the power of your voice to express yourself from a centered position. So let's dive into the emotional side of that first. Now, the emotions are really our body's way or our ego's way of reflecting what's going on inside of us. Now, some people would say mastery of your emotions is through discipline and through stoicism. But again, that's not really it either. It's about feeling the emotion and just observing what's going on and recognizing that part of our human experience is experiencing those human emotions. And that might just be part of our learning, part of our reason we're here, to remember how centered we can be, how powerful we can be. So don't look at those emotions as bad. Look at them as warning lights on the dashboard to say what's actually going on and how can I master my resonance? How can I get more balanced and centered in the moment and still have a human experience? And look, enjoy the great moments and the bad moments. Enjoy the peace, the calmness that comes with spiritual stillness. Enjoy the laughter and carry on with your friends and family. Look for that. Look for that laughter. And then there's love, pure connection, openness to a connection, and the joy of long-term relationships with your partner, if you have one, with your kids, with your family, extended family, with your best friends. And like I've said before, just looking to have those connections and scheduling those moments of fun so that you can experience the whole range of emotions that comes with interaction. The emotions also happen just in stillness with yourself. And a lot of people's relationship with themselves is a challenge in and of itself. So that time you spend with yourself to get calm, to get centered, to get balanced and still, whether that be through meditation, whether that be through walking in nature, grounding, doing stuff you love, going hang gliding, going scuba diving, just being out in the garden, whatever it is you love doing, you've got to do that. And that is the real purpose of today's episode. I've said before, in our 4 things we're going for, the second one is to do more of what you love doing. And really, how cool is that? How much in a week, how much in a day, how much in a year are you doing things you love doing? Not stuff that someone else has told you to do, not faking that you're having fun doing something you don't actually really want to do, but standing in your power and finding that thing that you actually love doing. How much are you doing that? Really, that is one of the keys to a fun, fulfilled life. Doing the stuff you love doing and being true that that is what you love doing, not faking it. I get faking till you make it sometimes. I get that you can't always be on center and always in your truth. But if you're focused and disciplined and scheduled in making those moments, more of those moments in your life, that is a real fulfilling life. Now, when you're interacting then with people, it could be your partner, it could be your children, and you are trying to inspire them to do something with you, and they don't want to do that. You're not out of alignment. You just have to let go. Sometimes people don't want to do what you want to do. And find the tribe, find the people that you want to do that with. The overlying dynamics of a relationship is there should be quite a bit of overlap of things you love doing with that person. If there's nothing, then you're probably quite out of alignment, and that might not be the relationship for you. If you're overlapping and you're doing everything together, sometimes you need a break and you need your own time. So once again, finding that balance in relationships is the key. Now, as a chiropractor, what I've known for many years is about the fight or flight nervous system response. Now, that is a biochemical electrical response that happens when we're stressed. For example, we go into that fight or flight stage. The nervous system connects directly to the adrenals, and we get that shot of adrenaline if we're exposed to a stress situation. And that could be a word, it could be a sentence that's delivered to you in a way that you react to, could be physical, dangerous situation. But whatever that stressful moment is, will go into that shot of adrenaline. And right there in that stress state, that is a normal state. That is the body's hardwire state to keep safe. So if we don't use up that energy and we just try and relax and switch back to the parasympathetic nervous system state without using that adrenaline, that will create chronic stress. In that chronic stress, we then take more stress on and end up with tight muscles, high blood pressure, all of those negative health interactions that happen through the body in a state of chronic stress. So with that stress state, what we do need to realize and be aware of is we are in that moment in a fight or flight state. So in that, we have to use that adrenaline. That's why exercise, breath work, breathing it out, venting it out verbally is so important first before we then can switch back to the parasympathetic state. In that, and recognizing that we are in the fight or flight state, if we then want to go, how do we master this and create a response rather than a reaction? That is being able to compress time and recognize the state you're in to make sure the interaction is true to what you would like it to be. That is an art form. That is mastery. Recognizing what your truth is, staying centered, and then recognizing as soon afterwards that you may be in a stressful state and going to use that energy, whether that be through, again, exercise, elbowing a punching bag, screaming it out, whatever that is. So that's a very, very great way to deal with when you are feeling off your center. If you have shut down in that moment, if you have yelled or said something you regret in that moment, the very best thing you can do is recognize that and realize your humanity and deal with that, whether that's through a further correspondence with that person to try and own your part of it, but not take on stuff that wasn't yours in that interaction. Once again, that is a balancing act. So finding your truth and finding your voice is recognizing the fight or flight stressful state. It's recognizing that in interactions you have with other people and your own mind are going to happen, and you then want to realize in that moment that you're going to do the best you can with what you work out. Now I think we'd like to talk about the power of your voice. How many people out there really are expressing their full truth, their full open truth without filters and standing in their power? You know, if you really believe in something and you also want to fit into society, sometimes you won't speak your truth so that you can fit in. This is a massive balancing act. But you are unique and you are here for a reason. And I think that the overlay from the governmental, society, corporate world conditioning means that our uniqueness has been minimized. Our true power is expressed through our voice, whether that's a belief, whether that's a vision, whether that's a acknowledgement or communication. Our voice holds our true power. Our voice is our expression of our resonance through the ether and through the world. It is so powerful. Our thoughts that sit around in our mind are still powerful, but when we give our thoughts voice and actually project into the world, that is true power. That is true vision. Why do people hold themselves back? What really is that? What benefit does that serve the world? For you to be born into the world and hold back on your vision, hold back on your truth. Now, sometimes in interactions, people are going to judge. They're going to judge you. They're going to judge what you say, what you thought, what you did. And then we feel in our ego that our ego was hurt. I don't want to be judged. I don't want to be singled out. So we end up holding back and not sharing our actual truth. Why is that? This podcast is about standing into your power, your true aligned power, and turning your tap on. Now, I would like to support my profession, my chiropractic profession, to talk into their power, to tell the truth, so that people understood by being in alignment, your nervous system works better. Most people still don't even understand that. And I would like to gather a group of our chiropractic colleagues who've got great wisdom, who've got great energy. Every time we talk about the power of our voice, it gets minimized. And the pharmaceutical drugs industry is so powerful economically that they shut us down. And the perception in the community is that chiropractic is fringe, is weak, is dangerous. We all know that people have a lot of bad reactions from medications, and yet chiropractic is seen as the more dangerous one. Here's the economics of it. If you are in alignment, if you are really well and your body is functioning at its highest level, you don't need medication. If you're well, you don't need medication. If you don't need medication, who loses? The pharmaceutical industry. So they do have an agenda for you not to be perfectly well. That's pretty scary. And when we speak out about that as chiropractors, we get shut down. We get labeled as crazy. We get labeled as quacks. And yet most people would agree that if your nervous system was in alignment, you would be functioning better. And yes, you still need to eat well. You still need to exercise. You still need to think well. You still need to sleep well. You still need to ground your body electrically. But what if chiropractors really stood up and shared the truth? I think the world will be a different place. I think if our nervous system worked better, the world would be a better place. So here I am speaking my truth. And this is for all chiropractors to listen. Speak the truth. Stand in your power. Let the world know that you are better off being in alignment than out of alignment. And the people can still decide. You're not making them do anything. But just see if that makes sense. So much sense that it doesn't matter if you've got to hear a story, a case, a best marketing strategy, that you just understand the truth that if you are in alignment, you are better. And you get out of alignment because of all those postural things, repetitive things you do, accidents you've had, stress that you've had. So get in alignment. That's the truth. Now, that's a message I've just shared from our profession. But what's your message? What's your truth? What do you want to say to your partner? What do you want to say to your colleagues? What do you want to say about your life, to your church, your group, that you're not saying because you're not standing in your power and you're worried about what people think? You're never going to make everyone happy. You're never going to always get it right. And if you're stuck in the emotions of fear, of worry, of judgment, of ego, of guilt or shame, of the lower vibration emotions, if you're going to worry about those, that's half the battle. People listening to this podcast are going to stand in their power. They have a vision to do it. That's why they're listening. So listeners, friends, I want you to stand in your power. It's time. The world is changing, and it's time for us to be sovereign, to use our voice, and to stand in our power. and have fun and do what you love doing, but also do what you are here to do by being authentic and having the freedom to speak out and say what you want and do what you want with the time, with the heartbeats you have here. There is nothing more important than being on purpose and speaking your truth. So love, connect, appreciate, and be grateful. Be grateful that you can speak. Be grateful that you are here. Be grateful for the learnings you will get by speaking your truth. Because sometimes you will speak your truth and blow people out. Sometimes you will speak your truth and inspire others. There will be what could be perceived as good and bad. But either way, by speaking your truth and staying on your center, you are living the life that you are here to live. I really, really acknowledge you. I acknowledge your wisdom. I acknowledge your uniqueness. And I acknowledge your sovereignty. I'm in such gratitude that we have a platform for me to be able to share some of the wisdom I've picked up along the way. And I'm so grateful for being able to speak to others on this podcast to share their wisdom to you. I said at the start of this podcast that if I could help one person truly step into their power, that will make the world a better place. And I hope from this episode that one person speaks their truth and stands in their power. I hope you have an awesome day. See ya.